Hello, Ollie here. Just before we get into the main show, I just want to mention that the Film Junk podcast, which is my personal favourite podcast, and I think it might be the longest running podcast now. Anyway, that's besides the point. Every other month, they do a premium podcast, which for a minimum contribution of $1, you get to download it and keep it. This month, they're focused on the works of Spike Lee, and all the proceeds for the first month go towards Black Lives Matter. So whatever you can contribute, you can do anything from $1 all the way up to whatever you want. So it goes to a great cause. Please check out their website or their Bandcamp for more details about where your money will be going. So that's the Film Junk podcast. Cheers.
Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
Escaping our life that's lived in a coal mine to go on the run and undertake the worst bank robbery of all time. This week it's an emotional ride in Adjust Your Tracking, a podcast where we are on an adventure to watch a century of cinema decade by decade, year by year. And I am one half of your hosts, Liam. And he over there is...
Oliver Jones.
Anna, welcome.
I don't know why I said it like that.
To the show. Oliver Jones.
Oliver Jones.
Welcome to the show. And it's a new miniseries, Oliver Jones.
It's a new decade.
It's a new decade. It's a new day. Yes, it is. And we're going to break into the 1970s now. But first, how are you, Mr. Ollie?
I'm good. I'm all right, thanks. I've been fairly busy the last few days. I hosted an online Q&A session with my friend's band. They were called Blackfish back in the aughts.
In the aughts.
And they had I say famous, but they had like a quite notorious breakup, like all of a sudden in like 2010. And so like they've got quite a following, and like there were people have wanted them to do like a reunion show for years or get back together, and they weren't friends for a long time. Three of them were, but the one of them, the singer guitarist, he kind of went his own way and kind of did his own thing for a long time.
Sure.
And recently they've kind of they've become friends again, and it's quite nice. And while they're not getting back together, they decided to do a Q&A. And I was, for some reason, chosen to be the moderator.
Hey.
And so basically people emailed in questions, or on the live stream they're asking questions. So I was just picking and choosing questions and kind of asking them the questions, and they were giving me the answers. So yeah, that was good fun.
Was it quite busy?
Yeah, it was quite busy. Yeah, we had at one point, most we had was 88 viewers at one time. But since then, it's had a couple of thousand views on Facebook since then. But you asked me earlier, Mike, because behind me there's a poster on the floor.
There is a poster on the floor, yeah.
And so, as you know, I have lots of toys
Yep.
and kind of nerdy paraphernalia. So I didn't want to be on this live stream looking like
a big old nerd.
Uncool. So I just had it against a grey wall. So yeah.
So if I turn my camera to the left, I'm a grown-up. If I turn my camera to the right,
that's pretty much it. And then the other thing was, so just not to get into what we've watched or anything this week, but I've only watched one film, and I've watched it 3 times.
Okay.
And that's Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Oh yeah, sure.
And the reason for that is I have another podcast, which is it's a bit more rambly than this. It's just kind of me and my friend Tom just talking about nerdy stuff. Not that me and you don't talk about.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like the same podcast.
But that started a while ago, and originally it was just going to be about animation, and it's called Tom and Ollie's Big Kids Club. It was going to be called Tom and Ollie's Cartoon Club, until I realised I don't remember much about cartoons I watched as a kid, and it meant that I've got to watch a lot of cartoons, and I thought I can't be bothered to do that, so we just changed it to Big Kids Club, and we just talk about everything. So what I did was I emailed loads of animators back then, and surprise, surprise, I got no replies whatsoever.
Normal.
2 years later, the co-director of the Beavis and Butthead film, called Yvette Kaplan, she emailed me back because she was clearing out her email inbox because, COVID, she's got a lot of time on her hands, so she just thought, I'll just clear out my inbox.
She's one of those people that on her phone just has 600 unread emails. which drive me
Probably.
mad. Actually, you're
And
one of those people too, so I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm not. No,
Tell me
man.
what.
I'm going to show you my phone. Let's have a look. Oh, hang on.
There you go.
I don't even
See,
see it.
you've got so many
346.
notifications on that screen. Every single folder's got a notification on it.
Anyway, I'm a liar. But she replied going, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I never saw this email. If your podcast is still going, I'd love to be on it." We were kind of a bit off and on with the podcast, but again, due to COVID, we didn't have much going on. So because we started this podcast, I said to Tom, should we kind of kick that into gear again?
Yeah, because it was
And,
originally just a video podcast, but you've put it onto audio now as well. Like,
Yeah, it was. To be honest, it kind of ended up. It started off being more as a show and tell. Look at my shit.
yeah.
That was it. Because we didn't know what we were doing really. We were just like, "Hey Tom, this toy looks cool, doesn't it?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's really cool. Here's my toy. What do you think? Is it really
Well,
cool?"
I
I'm
liked
like,
I liked
yeah,
watching
Tom.
you guys talk about your toys.
We don't always talk about toys.
Not
But,
toys.
We'll have to get you on soon anyway. There's one I want to get you
Crossover.
on soon for anyway, and I'll explain to you after the show.
Ah,
I
that's
think
called a
you'll
tease.
like being on this one. It is a tease. So yeah, she emailed back saying, "Oh, I'd love to be on it if you're still going." So I emailed back going, "Yes, please be on our show." And so we arranged a date. Me and Tom were sitting down, ready to record, and she didn't turn up. We're like, what the fuck? So I kept messaging her, and there's several. Bearing in mind she lives in LA, so there's quite a big
Sure,
time difference.
yeah.
You know, like what, 9 hours?
Is it
No,
9 hours? I was trying to remember. I'm always crap with
Yeah.
time differences.
It's 5 hours on the
Yeah,
west,
it's 5 hours on the East Coast. So
and it's 9 or 8 or something on
yeah,
the.
between 8 and 9, whatever.
And
It's not mountain time anyway.
she just emailed back. She's going, "Oh, I went to walk my dog and I forgot. So can we do it another day?" So we rescheduled and we had an interview with her, and it was lovely. And we talked for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah.
And she gave us lots of kind of it came across like, because she's a bit of an, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, a bit of an older lady, not like old, but you know. And
You're allowed to say someone's
just-
older than you.
I know it's true. She's older than me. And I just think it kind of gave her some validation. It kind of made her feel good about herself. And I think,
Cool.
like, maybe she hasn't worked in the industry for a while like she used to. And I think
Yeah,
it kind
maybe.
of, you know, people just talking to her, like, kind of almost worshipping her. Like, and you
You
directed
did this film, yeah.
a #1 box office film in America that was made on a budget of 12 million and made nearly $80 million. That's incredible.
Which is incredible.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that film's an absolute success. I love that film. Like it's such a good translation of like that kind of small cartoon to a feature. That doesn't happen well, and they did it. Like,
well, like, you know, those episodes are like 5 to 6 minutes long each, and to blow that up to an 80-minute film,
Exactly.
and it to like the whole thing hold up. I think it's done a lot better than say like The Simpsons. That
I was
movie
thinking,
is not very
that
good.
Simpsons movie, or like the Rugrats film and stuff like that. There's not that many that make that transition.
I like the South Park film a lot, but I think the Beavis
Oh, the
and
South
Butthead
Park
was
film
better
is really good.
personally.
Yeah.
I do like it, but I think Beavis and Butthead was better. But yeah, so that was lovely. So a bit of plug if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, check out the interview. Though.
But we've got a few more animators lined up to talk to, which is one of the things I want to talk to you about if you want to pop on. But
Okay.
I'll talk to you about that later on. But how are you doing anyway?
I'm good. Not much to report. Today in the world is we're currently tearing down statues of racists and slavers, and that kind of falls into my kind of world a little bit. So I've been a bit busy, just kind of, you know, talking about it, replying to people on social medias and stuff like that, writing little papers and things like that about that kind of element. People
I love
have
that
asked me a lot
meme
of
you shared with
questions.
me, and it was of a woman going. It's a picture of the Angel of the North going, "Please do not tear it down." It's like, I don't think you got it.
Angel
I
of
don't
the
think you got
North
the memo.
started trending last night because apparently some people got in their heads that people were coming for it. No one's coming for the Angel of the North. It's fine. Like it wasn't a
That
slaver.
old racist.
Yeah, like the Angel of the North didn't enslave anybody. It's okay. But yeah, so I've been kind of busy talking about that because when when these kind of stuff fall into history and archaeology and stuff like that, I try to kind of put my oar in a little bit and try to kind of put a sensible view out there, or I just go and yell at people to get kind of to get a bit of tension out or something. But so I've been kind of busy the last few days, all keeping up in touch with that, and just to say that tearing down a statue of a slave is not erasing history; it is making history, and that's
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Like,
it's nuts. Did you see the first one that is tore down in Bristol?
yeah, of course.
Someone changed the Google Maps location of where the statue is now, and it's in the
it's in the harbour
river or whatever.
Yeah.
It made me laugh so much.
That was great. And apart from that, I think weirdly enough, I think right now is the first time since we've started this podcast, since the first episode, that we can talk movie news, because things actually happening again. And things are
Bill and
actually
Ted.
ramping up again. And exactly, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. So basically the first trailer for the newest film coming out has come out since the last 4 months, and it's Bill and Ted Face the Music. So
yeah, and it's nuts. It's out in 2 months.
2 months apparently. I mean, Tenant's that meant to be out before. Don't forget, Tenant's
I've got a little
scheduled
fact
before
for you
it.
though. So, hang on. So Bill and Ted comes out on the 21st of the 8th. 2020.
Okay.
If you add that up, if you add the 8, the 21, the 20, and the 20, it equals 69.
Okay. Thanks, Riddler.
No, 69. Oh, never.
I get it.
And the
Very
trailer
happy.
came out on the. If you go by American dates, the 6th of the 9th. It's like it was planned.
I'm going to assume that was planned. I'm just going to assume it was planned. Otherwise,
do you reckon it's going to make it to the cinema though?
I do. I think it's going to get cinema release. Cinemas are opening in a week in California at 25% capacity, and I just think that's going to keep spreading, because God knows what they're talking
The
about.
disease.
Well, yeah, like the disease, but they're going to, because I don't know. Oscars have just announced they're pushing back the ceremony date. They're still going to have one,
really?
but they're pushing it back from the 28th of February, which is kind
Is
of
Bill
weird.
and Ted going to get Best Picture, Best Actor?
I think First Cow is going to win everything. That's my nomination. Go watch First Cow when you get to see it. But I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Who knows? It's going to be Tenant, Bill and Ted, and that's it. Apparently, as far as I can tell. Sonic. But also movie news this Friday. Tomorrow, King of Staten Island comes out. New Judd Apatow film that gets released on streaming tomorrow.
I've read a few reviews on that, and I'll always watch a film to make my own judgment, but it sounds like it's got a lot of the same problems that a lot of Judd Apatow films have. And don't get me wrong, I love his films, but he needs someone who can he needs to cut his lovelies a lot of the time. He's just he'll have a punchline in a because he has a lot of improvised stuff in his films. And so, but he doesn't know what punchline to end his scene on, so he just goes, "I'll just keep all the punchlines." So it just kind of keeps going. No.
This is the first Judd Apatow film I've been interested in a long time. Really, this is the first one that I've kind of seen and gone, that looks kind of interesting. That looks kind of fun. So I'm up for it. And it's nice to just have new films coming out by actual filmmakers. I'm kind of excited that something's coming out. So I'm looking forward to watching it as soon as I can, really.
The last Judd Apatow film I really enjoyed, I don't say I really enjoyed, but I liked quite a bit, was Funny People, and that's because I
think Funny People's good, yeah.
I genuinely like Adam Sandler. He does a lot of shit.
I want to like Adam Sandler more than I like him. That's my whole thing about Adam Sandler.
But when he's good, he is good.
Yeah, he is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when he's good, he absolutely just spot on. But most of the time.
But going back to Bill and Ted, what did you think?
Took me a while to watch the trailer in anything but pixelated, because I haven't had internet in 3 weeks. But when I finally watched it, it was it's a weird cut trailer, because it's I think trailers nowadays are often weirdly cut. It's very much just like a trailer that seems to be designed to run on streaming services. If that
it's just
makes
cut
sense.
from like two scenes by the looks of
Yeah,
things, and that's
yeah.
it. So like
It feels
the
like a
future,
kind
and
of
then
more like a TV spot
they're in
to
prison.
me than a trailer.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, 100%.
So it feels like to me something that runs before something on a website, or something that runs before like a video or like a film that you're streaming, which I think means it had a bit of a weird flow. But I'm really excited by it, and actually I felt a little emotional seeing like those characters back on screen because they meant a lot to me. So I think it kind of got me in a weird way actually. So I'm excited. It's the funny thing about Bill and Ted, and I'll say this in a way that I wish I had better words. Like both Bill and Ted's are not like fantastic films. They're kind of like yeah, but they're very great films in a very standard way. If I'm trying to make sense of that, like I love them and I haven't got any problem with them, but they're not like some epic or something. But in my head, they are. And
no, I think get because they came out in a time when we were so young.
Sure.
It's like when I saw Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey for the first time at the cinema, I remember leaving the cinema and said, I'm not going to see a film again because I'll forget how amazing this film is.
Yeah. I felt the same about Bogus Journey.
That was like my mindset.
Yeah. For me, like ending a film and like a concert and stuff like that and a Kiss song, I was like, oh my God, that's the best thing you ever do with a film. Like, but so I get it how they're just very standard films. So this might be a very standard film is all I'm saying. But I think it looks really good. I think it looks really exciting. I'm just trying not to pin too much onto it because I think it's in trouble of being a film that will be overinflated because it's got so much nostalgia and love for it. And I think
100%.
that's the problem of this film. It might get sunk by its kind of nostalgia, or at least its expectation.
Ghostbusters will probably have the same kind of thing that's coming next year.
Yeah, but at least Ghostbusters' ship was sunk at some point, like by kind of like
that's true.
But Bill and Ted never was
by Paul Feig.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if there's a Google Docs where you can actually find the Ghostbusters 2016, if that's floating in a harbour somewhere or it's sunk. Bad joke.
It took me so long.
Yeah, for me, like I was having a chat with someone about Bill and Ted, and they were like, "Oh, the way that Keanu Reeves says." Be excellent to each other or whatever he says, or is it party on dudes? He sounds so old, and I was like, that's the joke. That's the whole point of this film. I think you've just totally missed what it's all about, really.
I like Keanu or Ted in his button down. I like the look.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
I have a feeling I think in the trailer it kind of it shows that they kind of become like a function band. So like,
yeah,
like how I was talking about Blackfish. 3 of those members became a band called Anu and I. They're still together, but they also do weddings, and they played my wedding. So they always kind of do that thing that kind of rock bands like, no, we only play original music, our music, until they realise, oh, well, we need to make money. So they kind of form a function band. So they've kind of got this, like, so it felt like they're kind of doing that.
It's fine. Yeah. I got a feeling Ted might be kind of like he's got a really boring job. Like he took like a job. Yeah, I reckon like an accountant job or something like that, or something that's really not rock and roll.
Bill's the one's trying to like
and Bill the one who's never lost the dream or something. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of betting on a little bit, or it's a bit like Anvil, you know, the documentary.
Yes, that's a great documentary. Do you think like it looks like they go to hell because when they see the Grim Reaper, there's like all fire around them, behind them, and stuff like that.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, but like
wasn't that the original?
William Sadler.
Oh no, it was the Bogus Journey that went to hell, didn't they? Yeah, of course they did. Yeah. William Sadler's back. Yeah.
Apparently, you know the Kiss song at the end of Bogus Journey. That's not an original Kiss song; it's a cover, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
And when I saw Kiss, I was like, I can't wait for them to play it. I can't wait for them to play it. I can't wait for them to play it. And then the concert ends, and then they just play it over the speakers as everyone's leaving. I was like, you.
That's so shit.
But when Mastodon are writing a song for this film. So I'm kind of hoping Mastodon write the song that saves the world. I'm hoping.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Actually, the problem is they can't show you the song that saves the world. They can't do that on screen. They just.
Do you not think?
No, because it will. I don't know. There's so much pressure on that not being a shit song or not being a bit too cheesy or something. Like,
Well, I always thought for years that the song they sang at the end of Bogus Journey was the song.
Well, of course it was, but then when you come to write a sequel, you might as well just ignore it.
It's not that one, it's another one. What was the trailer you watched then you were going to talk about?
No, I got a story. So, shush.
Shush.
The first time I ever worked... Well, how do I word this? I can't remember what it was. I was basically running an archaeological training dig up in Cumbria, and I had just passed my driving test, or not long before passed my driving test. So I had to drive the tool van, like a massive twin cab tool van full of all the kind of the shovels and mattocks and wheelbarrows and everything else that we carry around with us. And I had to drive that from Birmingham to Cumbria where we were working. And I got in the car and the radio was broken on this van, and all the van had was a cassette player. That's the only thing it had in it. So halfway up to Cumbria, we had to stop for fuel. I am missing out parts of this story where I crashed into the gas station. That can be ignored. And whilst we were getting lunch, we went around the charity shops in this. I can't remember the city playing, but the town name or whatever. We went around charity shops to pick up cassettes for the tool van, and we picked up 3 cassettes, if I remember right. One was a Kate Bush cassette. One was the Tetris single that was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber, and
the Tetris single.
Yeah, there was like a dance. Yeah, there was a dance song based on that got released in the 90s.
I didn't even know.
And the third one was God Gave Rock and Roll by Kiss from the Bill and Ted Bogus Journey soundtrack. So
just
for
the single, not the soundtrack.
Just the single. It had 3 mixes on it or something, like the radio edit and the rock edit or something. So for
the instrumental
3 weeks, we drove around Cumbria in this massive van with just those 3 songs and those 3 cassettes on a loop. So whenever I hear God Gave Rock and Roll now, I just think about me bouncing over the hills of Cumbria in this massive van that I could barely control and kind of scraping into dry stone walls and stuff.
Amazing.
And that's why I like that.
I love
song.
it though when songs just remind you of a certain time or period.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. Yeah, but one more trailer. This isn't exciting. It's called 7500, I think, or something. Have you seen this? It's the new Joseph Gordon-Levitt trailer, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a pilot and terrorists take over, and he's stuck in the cockpit and he can't do anything about it. He can't leave the cockpit, and all the people are dying in the kind of plane, and he's there going, "Oh no!" And it's releasing on Amazon in a month, I think, like that. I think it's a month's time or something. And my favourite thing about it is another one. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I kind of really do. But 2, it's another one of the Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a very interesting accent throughout this film. The walkie was French, which is the most amazing French accent ever. And in this, he's German. And it took me I've watched the trailer twice to go, he's doing German. Why is he German? Why does he have to be German in this? Why can't he just be American?
Well, it's
I'm looking forward
Dark
to
Knight Rises. He's doing a thick Boston accent.
Yeah,
You're like, why are you doing a Boston accent?
Like Snowden, he does whatever Edward Snowden's accent is. He does it. It's so distracting.
He hasn't done anything in a while.
No, he hasn't at all. He did. He do?
I think he's been just doing his hit record stuff.
Yeah. Which I'm a little bit obsessed with, because every day Joseph Gordon-Levitt just tweets out what's the name of this dragon? Or have you got a song? Add it here.
I have been tempted to take part in that hit record stuff, but I have not yet taken part. That's the end of my story.
That's the end of that.
What did you think of the Tenant trailer?
Did I watch it? I haven't watched it. Oh my god!
Have you not watched
it?
Oh man,
I watched the teaser ages ago, but I haven't watched the trailer.
I mean, it looks like every other Nolan film, like men in 3-piece suits, but I'm down for it.
Oh, I'm down for it. I'm really looking forward to it.
I just like how it's like we said, it's going to start how it ends. It's the rumours is it's a palindrome, isn't it? Yeah, well, because people have got this ability where I know it looked a bit like Wanted, how they can curve bullets and all that kind of stuff. Some people have the ability to kind of somehow manipulate time so it goes in reverse or something like that. So you've got sequences where people are going in the normal speed and other people are in reverse. It is. I mean,
cool.
It seems like an idea that you think someone would have had this idea already, but
Yeah. It's a very video game idea. I'm sure I can think of video games when that happens. So.
Oh yeah, like Prince of Persia and all that kind of stuff. But it's done in that very Nolan style where you know that they did it practically and they somehow managed to combine it all together.
Sorry, talking of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that corridor fight in Inception is still the most amazing thing. It's absolute credit to Joseph Gordon-Levitt himself for being able to actually do that and do it so effortlessly. He must have learnt it like a dancer, how to do that scene.
Well, you need to watch the behind-the-scenes sequence because they built this huge tunnel that's literally it's like vertical. So he's on wires, like just suspended in midair. Yeah, just watching them do it is incredible. And I just love, like that film. That is up there in probably my top 5 favorite films. And I know
should be. I love that film.
I've actually visited some of the locations there. Going back to they weren't in New York though.
Oh,
but just how like that whole sequence takes part because the guy driving the van, it goes backwards, doesn't it? And it's falling off a bridge or something.
Yeah.
And so that's why all of kind of
all the gravity goes.
Gravity is all shifted. But yeah,
I think it's amazing.
Is the music really the what's the name of the song?
Le Vie en Rose, isn't it?
Le Vie en Rose, yeah.
It's all slowed
is it
down,
really that?
Yeah.
Is that really that song?
That's
that is very smart. I think that's a very
really smart
idea. That Nolan.
That Nolan. Well, that might be Hans. Nothing to do with Nolan.
That's true. He's not doing the music for this one. It's the first one he hasn't done the music for.
That's surprising.
I've forgotten who is doing. I just want to have a quick look who's doing the music. Oh yeah, I didn't realise the main character in the film is played by John David Washington, which is Denzel's son.
I didn't know it was Denzel's son. Oh wow. That's cool. That's really cool.
So the music is by Ludwig Göransson.
Göransson. He sounds familiar. Why does he sound familiar?
And he has done. Let's have a look. It looks like he did. I think the Mandalorian music.
That might be it then.
Yeah, he seems like he's fairly new. He's quite young, 35. He did Idiocracy. Going back to Mike Judge, Tropic Thunder, Devil Wears Prada. That was working assisting Theodore Shapiro, who wrote those scores. So he's fairly new by the looks of things.
Man, that's a great contract then.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it? Job, not contract. It's a great job.
So I wonder what like his what Nolan's brief is to him. I just want it to sound like, and then he's like, go.
I want it to be, and he's like, yeah, sure, Nolan, yeah, I'll go do that. Yeah, give me a second.
I saw Hans Zimmer live, and he did the Inception suite at the end, like almost like it's like walks off and he's like, see you later, thanks for coming, and the band does an encore. He came back for an encore with his like 40-piece orchestra. And it was just the Inception for like about 25 minutes. And oh man, talk about hair raising on you. It's like, ooh, got all the tingles.
All the tingles. Was Joseph Gordon-Levitt there spinning around? Definitely should have been.
He should have been. They had, Johnny Marr was at the London dates. He wasn't at the UK ones. I know in America or whatever they had a guy from Incubus was playing guitar.
Really? I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Something Eisinger. Michael Eisinger or something like that. I don't know. Have you watched any films this week?
Yeah, okay. Actually, I watched Long Shot. Which
who's that?
It's Seth Rogen and Charlie Theron.
Charlize
Theron. I'm not talking today. Directed by Jonathan Levine. The guy did like 50-50 talking of JGL and Warm Bodies, which I like both.
That was a good film.
Yeah, I like both of those a lot. I really liked Long Shot a lot, actually. I really enjoyed it. It was absolutely the film I needed to sit down and watch at that point. I was sitting down and watching it and just thinking, I've missed rom-coms. Like, I miss rom-coms. Like, I wish there
Oh,
rom-coms
it's a
were still
rom-com.
made. Like, yeah, it's like she's like a Secretary of State or something like that, and he is an old
he's a
high school friend
He writes her.
who writes the
Doesn't he write her
speeches.
like speeches?
Yeah, yeah. And it's just then a rom-com really, but it's it's time in my life to admit that I like Seth Rogen. I like Seth Rogen a lot. I like basically everything he does. Like, I just never give him credit for it, I think. Like,
I've always been on the Seth Rogen train. Like he's definitely one of my man crushes. But looking at the trailer for this film, it looks like he turned up to set wearing his normal clothes, and they just went, "Yeah, just wear that. It's fine." Have you seen? Do you follow him on Instagram? All he makes now is pottery, and it's just little ashtrays to keep his doobs on.
He's I think he's best. I might get this wrong, so asterisk that this might be bullshit. But him and Jonathan Levine, I think, are best friends, because I think 50-50 is about. It might be the writer, not Jonathan Levine. Might be Will Reiser going through cancer treatment himself. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays that character whose best friend in real life is Seth Rogen. So Seth Rogen basically plays himself in 50-50 in a roundabout way. If that makes sense.
Could be true. I don't know.
I know that
I think his best friend is Evan Goldberg, who's like his producing and writing partner.
Yeah.
I think so. If you watch Superbad, Evan, who is played by Michael Cera, is Evan Goldberg.
Yeah.
And then Seth is obviously Seth Rogen. And Seth Rogen was going to play himself in Superbad, but then aged out of it. And then they picked Jonah Hill, who is pretty much the same age as Seth Rogen anyway. So
he's always looked kind of young, Jonah Hill, though, hasn't he, I guess? But I mean, like, I don't know, 50-50, Long Shot, Pineapple Express, Steve Jobs, This Is the End. I love, like, all those films, like, and I love what Seth Rogen does in them. So I'm a big Seth Rogen fan.
I think Green Hornet was a bit of a misfire.
Yeah. I mean, he's got misfires, but I think who hasn't? I like the Spiderwick Chronicles too, and he's in that, so I don't know.
I haven't seen that. He's in Donnie Darko as well, briefly.
He's in Donnie Darko, isn't it? Yeah.
I tell you what's really good. Freaks and Geeks is a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I forget it. Yeah.
And his girlfriend in that show is played by the girl from Election, who is the sister of Chris Klein.
Okay, Tammy.
You know, the one who runs against his own brother. Her own brother, sorry. Yeah.
The cast.
But then she dropped out of acting and she quit acting after that.
Oh, did they? Sorry.
Yeah. Everyone from Freaks and Geeks has done incredibly well.
Yeah. Every one of them has just gone off
Martin
to have
Starr,
a career. Yeah.
James Franco,
Martin
Linda
Starr,
Cardellini, Busy Phillips. Who else is it? The main kid, he wrote the Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, and the sequel, I think.
I think because that's why Martin Starr's in it, if I'm correct. I think that's why. But yeah, it's
because he wrote it.
Because he wrote it.
But also, Martin Starr's just great. I enjoy Martin. I mean, he's always a bit part. He's never like the lead in a film.
Yeah, but I like watching Martin
he obviously
Starr
had a
do
big part in.
business. Do you know what I mean? Like my favourite stuff of like the Spider-Man Far From Home was like him pissing around with like the camera and stuff like that, trying to take photos.
Drops it in the room.
Yeah, all his like little business. I was like, I'm on board for Martin Starr. I could just watch this.
You know, he's got a little cameo in Incredible Hulk, and Edward Norton like buys him pizza or something in it, and there's just a shot of him just kind of like eating the pizza. Apparently, they've retconned it now, so he's the same character.
I didn't remember that at all.
What was else?
Yeah,
I like
we've gone
Martin
full
Starr
circle, Freaks and Geeks, because like that's Judd Apatow, isn't it? And Paul Feig, which we also mentioned. So I think that's a nice loop.
I think
Ollie. We've gone in a full loop.
I think it's mainly a Paul Feig production. I think.
Judd Apatow's got
his
it funded.
idea.
Yeah.
Best thing Paul Feig's done, in my opinion.
Oh, I love Spy. I think Spy's brilliant. I think Spy's so good.
I just can't stand Melissa McCarthy. I just can't
she's
stand
great
her.
in it. I really like Melissa McCarthy. I do. She should have won an Oscar.
I think Ghostbusters ruined it for me because all she does in that film is shout. That's
Ghostbusters
all she
is
does.
just bad.
It
was badly put together, but that's not any reason for me to hate her. Because when she's like, if you watch Can You Ever Forgive Me, she's so good. Like, but
But yeah, I'll give it a go. Is that with Sandra Bullock? No, that's the
Spy.
Heat, isn't it?
Spy's the one with
which
Jason
one's Spy?
Statham.
Is that Jason Statham?
Yeah. It's good. But also Bridesmaids.
By the way,
Paul Feig did that as well. So
that was good. To be fair, Bridesmaids was good. You know how we talked about Batman Forever last week?
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's some unfinished business for me with regards to that film. Talking about
it wasn't long enough.
So let me bring out my notes.
Jesus,
it's my notes.
Ollie's just unrolled a massive scroll like a town crier.
No,
it's currently running across the floor. It keeps going and it's bumped into the circuits. The skirting board is what I'm trying to say. Go on then. Get to your list.
It's clearing my throat.
This
just sounds so incredibly forced now. Point number 1.
Point 1. I like Batman.
The Batmobile. What do you think of the Batmobile, Liam?
I like that it lights up.
It does light up. Do you know that Geiger originally designed a Batmobile for it?
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say really so much.
It looked like a pair of scissors. It was really bizarre looking. And then I think they looked at it and they went, nah. But then if you look at the Batmobile they made, it kind of looks like an alien head. It does look Geiger inspired.
Yeah, it does look Geiger inspired a little bit. A big Geiger cop. So that's what it is.
The behind the scenes of Prometheus are hilarious because you're laughing at yourself.
Yes.
They invited Geiger to kind of help with his design work for Prometheus. And you can see him kind of hobbling around the office with he kind of draws on scraps of paper and stuff like that. And he's showing the designs. Well,
wasn't he like 100 when he did Aliens?
No, he was always one of those he looked like one of those people that if you shook his hand, he had a small clammy hand. He might not have done, but that's just what I got the impression. Have you ever shaken the hand with someone with like a little limp clammy hand?
Sure.
And you're like,
I was going to go for the Crypt Keeper more than anything else.
Yes, but yeah. So on the behind the scenes of that, he's got like doodles of like typical Geiger stuff, and like Ridley Scott's looking at it, going, "Yes, that's it's very good. Well done. Carry on." And then he used none of his designs in that film.
What's point 2?
Number 2.
Moving on.
10 weeks of post-production. That's pretty nuts.
Yep, that's nuts. Point 3.
Yes. Next. No, I haven't finished. Considering Star Wars Phantom Menace had 2 years of post.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But then, what? Okay, I won't ask this.
I'm guessing like a lot of the model shots and stuff were being filmed as the film was being shot itself.
Well, that's the only way that
to do the music and complete the editing and stuff. That's insane.
It kind of feels like a film that was it almost feels like a kind of modern Marvel film in a lot of ways. I bet a lot of the stuff was put together before they started shooting. There was a lot of slotting stuff in and that kind of way.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there weren't green screens on set. It was, like, fully built sets, wasn't it? So it's not like they have to put in the rest of the surrounding around them. It's like they built massive sets. Point number 3. Well, it's not a point. It's a question. Well, actually, those two. First of all, what are your thoughts of... of Val Kilmer?
As like, Batman?
How do you think of it? Yeah, how do you rate him, like, compared to, say, like, Michael Keaton?
He's nowhere near as good as Michael Keaton. It's not even in the same ballpark. I think he's a very boring Batman. I don't think he's engaging on screen. I don't think he's, like, he hasn't got that kind of intensity, I think. Even though I think Val Kilmer has everything to do Batman, I just don't think it's on screen in Batman Forever. Is that a nice?
Yeah, I wonder what that was, because we've seen him in other stuff where, you know, like, Heat and stuff, where he's definitely got...
Yeah, he's got everything.
Intense.
I think he just didn't like making it. I think that just comes through that film. I think I'm going to know what you're going to say, but I do think George Clooney's worse than Val Kilmer.
Oh, 100%. Like, George Clooney just pretty much played George Clooney, didn't he? Really?
Yeah.
Like,
and if you watch that film a lot, with Batman,
whenever he's out of the suit in that film, he's always like in his joggers and he's putting a towel on his shoulder. That's like constantly what I noticed he keeps doing. But yeah, I thought he was pretty bland. Like, if you look at like scenes like in like Batman '89 and stuff with Michael Keaton, and he's like doing the whole "let's get nuts" kind of scene. Like he's kind of got loads of different things he's doing in that film, and
Keaton turns it on.
like,
Keaton, he does. He has that. Like Keaton kind of feels like a psychopath. That's what the Tim Burton movies kind of are. They're films about psychopaths, and Batman's one of them. And I think Keaton has that in him, like, and it's always like right there that this guy is. You don't want to be friends with this guy. You don't want to sit down to dinner with this guy. He's scary. He's weird. Like, and I think Keaton got that. Whereas Val Kilmer just comes across as a bit bored, really.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Wayne would be a bit of a weird person in real life if he existed.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Val Kilmer just plays him as a very boring, normal guy. So who's your favourite on-screen Batman? Just out of interest.
This is a very long pause. It's hard to choose between Bale and Keaton. They're both brilliant for different reasons. I might prefer Keaton, but Keaton. It's saying that Keaton wouldn't fit into like the Nolan films, so I don't know. Like Bale was amazing; he was really good, but
but he's definitely got the more nuanced Bruce Wayne in terms of the fact that he's kind of got the other levels. He's got like the business side one that kind of is the showboaty kind of like the fake side. You've got the real Bruce Wayne, then you've got Batman, haven't you? So he kind of got those three levels. Whereas I think
Bale got this ability.
I don't know. Keaton has got that as well.
Yeah, but I think Bale had this ability to bring this character that is really ridiculous and make him feel real. Whereas Keaton doesn't try to make him feel real. He tries to make him feel like this kind of fantasy character. And I think Bale manages to bring this reality to both Bruce and Batman, which is hard to do, I think.
Well, like you've got the scene in the first, like Batman Begins, where he goes to dinner and he's kind of got the two girls on his arm, and he's kind of living it up and stuff.
He's all playing up to it.
And then you got the scene in the apartment in the second film, whereas you've got the party in '89, and Bruce Wayne's still awkward, even at his own party. But really, he should be be larger than life, like kind of like showing off a bit, but he doesn't do that. He's still like an introvert, isn't he? In his own.
Yeah, he can't even put the mask away to even be like Bruce Wayne. Really, he's just kind of a lunatic.
That concludes my additional content.
I was trying to think. I don't know. The other Batman, I didn't like Affleck, and Adam West is amazing as doing Adam West Batman. So I don't know.
Yeah, like Adam West is kind of in a category all of his own.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how you were saying last week about how you thought that Tommy Lee Jones was doing like the 66 Two-Face would have been like?
Yeah, that was my theory.
So there was a film, like an animated film that came out about 4 or 5 years ago, and it has Adam West as Batman and Burt Ward as Robin. And guess who voices Two-Face in that?
Who?
William Shatner.
What?
And to be fair, he would have been a perfect Two-Face back in the day in the series, I reckon.
God. Yeah, he could have been. Yeah, that's so weird. I know that thing existed. I didn't know bloody Shatner was voicing Two-Face. Anyway, we've gone on for about 70 hours, Ollie. So I think
that's true.
We need to move forward and go.
So, what are we talking about this week, Liam?
Well, our podcast is moving on and moving back in time, and we've left the 90s now, and we're jumping 20 years hence. I don't know if this makes sense at all, to the 1970s, which I'm quite excited to look at the 1970s, actually, because I think, for me, the 1970s is kind of where modern film gets birthed. That might sound really grand, but I think before that, it's very a different era, and I think modern film starts getting birthed around the 1970s. You get that kind of change in art movement, these kind of experimentally harder films. You get then the rise of like franchises that still exist today. You get the rise of screen film directors who influence everything we do today, and it's still around, like Scorsese's,
yeah, like horror films as well,
Spielberg's, the rise of horror
Halloween
and
stuff like that.
You get a grittier kind of sensibility to it. You get a kind of more realism to films where it's not so much glitz and glam, which was still kind of happening in the 60s. So I was kind of excited to dive into the 70s, really. 1970 itself, have you got any thoughts about films in 1970?
For me, I'm a big fan of El Topo. Have you seen that film?
No, I haven't seen El Topo. Tell me about it, actually.
It's the I can't pronounce his name. Alessandro Jodorowsky.
Oh yeah,
the kind of the kind of art house kind of. I don't know. It's like a acid western film. It's like because we watched the Dune documentary together.
We did, yeah.
And like as a person himself, he's a very charismatic but very eccentric kind of person, and I think that kind of bleeds through in his films. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when I think of Jodorowsky, I think of like the Holy Mountain, and the imagery of that and stuff is just kind of, it's surreal, kind of fantasy kind of elements to it. Like,
they are quite tough viewings.
Yeah,
again, a bit like what we were talking about today. They're a bit rough and ready, but there's something endearing about them, and they're always creative and kind of, a bit out there. But they're kind of very much like films I'd probably watch when I was a bit younger and partook in a bit of the old doobage, and it was films that we'd kind of sit and watch because it was just weird. It was just visuals to kind of to go alongside our.
Well, I think as I just said, you got that in the 70s. This kind of politically or like aesthetically adventurous new cinema wave really coming through, and I think a large part Jodorowsky is feeding into that style, bringing that surrealism maybe from the 60s through and things like, and
massively,
that connection stuff. But like more normal affair, I always think of Love Story, which we were talking about rom-coms earlier, but I Love Story is kind of one of those atypical love films, really. I mean, it's in the name. It was a huge film in 1970. It's one of the highest grossing films of all time. Tommy Lee Jones gets his start in it, but I think what most people who maybe even haven't seen it know it from is that line reading that love means never having to say you're sorry. Something that I think people know that sentence, they know that quote, but wouldn't even put it to Love Story.
I've never actually seen that film, so that's definitely one that I need to.
Yeah, I like it. I do like it. I think it holds up.
Get on there.
I mean, my favourite film from the 1970 though is do you know how familiar are you with Robert Altman films? Because he's got two in 1970.
I've seen a few. Which ones came out in 1970 then?
1970 you got MASH, and you've got Brewster McCloud.
I always forget he directed the MASH film,
And I watched...
MASH is like a show that I don't know if it was as big over here as it was.
I don't know anyone who watched MASH. I literally don't know a single person.
My aunt watched MASH. I know that.
Maybe we were just too young for any of us to watch it. I don't know.
Well, it finished before we were even born. Do you know what I mean?
So did stuff like Happy Days, and I watched that. Like, it's so.
That's true.
It didn't. Maybe it just didn't work over here as much, and just didn't get into syndication. I don't know, really.
Well, I guess the Vietnam War was more
Korean War.
Oh, it was the Korean War, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, it probably wasn't as prevalent to the UK, I guess.
I don't know. I think Britain did fight in the Korean War. I have no idea, actually. But anyway, I watched MASH, and it is. I didn't like it. I didn't like the film. No, I think it's a really horrible film. I think it's really I don't know what the word is, but very 70s. It's a film that tells you to like these people that are horrible people, and I didn't get it. Like, I was like, why should they win? They're twats. Like, why they hate like a female officer for no reason, that she's a female officer as far as I can tell and stuff. And I was watching it going, I don't like them. I don't want them to succeed. I don't like this film. And maybe it's just...
So was the show still on while this was on? Or...
I don't know. I don't know if this finished the show. I don't know if it started the show. I should have looked it up, and I don't know. I simply don't know. In this film, you get the two lead characters meet each other for the first time. What's his face and what's his face? This is really informative when I say that. Oh God, I just watched it and I can't remember the bloody names. And the character played by Donald Sutherland, the character played by Elliot Gould. So Hawkeye meets like Trapper John. Is that his name?
Right.
For the first time. So I thought I was watching this in the idea that it was like the first film, it was or something before the show, but I've actually no idea.
Right.
But also same year he releases Brewster McCloud, and I think Brewster McCloud's wonderful.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
It does have some odd use of language and racism, which was
Oh,
weird watching it
yeah,
right now,
well,
but
I guess that's going to be quite prevalent in the 70s.
yeah, but it's a great little kind of surrealist, crazy little film. Really kind of just out here and experimental. It kind of plays with narrative and stuff like that, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that film. It's kind of a bit crazy, and it's also got Rennie Augean-Benoit in it.
Okay.
Who was in obviously Batman Forever last week, so it made me think of it.
I mean, you've definitely got a lot of war films still coming out, haven't you? Because obviously, Vietnam was still going on. To be honest, like World War II had ended like probably how many years? 20 years prior.
Yeah.
But I guess still like World War II items were probably still easy to get hold of, and that so lots
probably.
of kind of. So you had like Kelly's Heroes, which was all right.
Okay, yeah.
Patton, I think Patton's fantastic.
I've never seen Patton. I have to admit that
Patton
won the best picture this year, didn't it?
Yeah,
so.
Patton is a great film, to be fair, and rightfully so. I think it's been a while since I've watched it, though. I think it's been a good.
But you're right. There does seem to be some reckoning with kind of war in this, because you got Patton and you got Tora.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there does seem to be some we're doing World War II now,
Like, one of my dad's favourite films came out, Little Big Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Dustin
sure.
Hoffman. Which I have seen, but I haven't seen it since I was a child, so it's one of those ones that...
I think...
the early 70s is going to be a bit of a rough patch for me in terms of what I have and haven't seen.
Yeah,
I probably
totally.
haven't seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like one of my mum's favourites was Ryan's Daughter.
Yeah, I've watched Ryan's Daughter. It's probably David Lean's worst film, frankly.
Probably.
But that's a bit. He makes wonderful films, so But Ryan's Daughter. That's. Do you know that he built a village for that film?
You told me that the week actually.
Did I say it on this? Then you can cut this out.
No, that's fine. We're keeping it in.
We're keeping it in. But I like Ryan's Daughter. But I think what's really iconic to me there's two films, and then we must move on. But Airport came out this year. Which I've never seen Airport. Have you ever watched it?
Well, no, but isn't that pretty much what Airplane's a remake of?
That's what Airplane's a satire of, yeah. And I know Airport only because Airplane's a satire of it, that's it. And I have absolutely no idea what it's like or if it's good or anything. I just know it came out this year.
Also, this is like the last decade where you get those old actors, so like...
Yeah.
Your Pecs and your,
Well, Jimmy Stewart's got a voiceover in Brewster McCloud as well, so he's still hanging around.
And John Wayne as well.
John Wayne's still around, yeah.
His last few films are in this decade.
I think Jack Lemmon is still making films as well. The Out of Town.
Well, he was still making them into the 90s, though, wasn't he? So
good point, yeah. Because we covered one of them, but
we did.
I think I was trying to think, like Aristocats came out this year, which is one of those Disney films I never think of. I don't even know. It's
boring, that's why.
I don't even know if I have an opinion of it. I watched it quite recently, and I think my main takeaway was the fact that they animate cats really well, which might sound a bit harsh. But
it's probably what they should have done for the feature film of Cats. But
yeah, probably.
This was a period in Disney, I think. It was like Robin Hood around this period as well, and
67 was Robin Hood or something.
Yeah, because Disney always go in ebbs and flows, don't they? Where their animated films are on fire, then they kind of go down, then they go up again, they go down.
Yeah.
I don't know which era we're in now. I don't know if they're on a high at the moment or if they're kind of.
It must be high, really.
I guess so. But the last Wreck-It Ralph was pretty boring, and Frozen 2 didn't really do much for
Ralph
me.
the internet.
It was alright, but
I liked it. I haven't seen Frozen 2, so I literally cannot comment. But maybe that's the problem. I don't even know much people who went out and saw it. It's like Frozen was huge and everyone stopped caring and they released Frozen 2 and no one went to go see it.
Well, I mean, it made over $1 billion, didn't it? But
Did it? Oh my
yeah,
god!
it was
I am
massive.
wrong then. I just don't know. I guess I don't have kids.
There was a time where Disney, if they did a sequel, it just went straight to DVD. I mean, or video. Like they didn't.
Yeah.
Like now they're in the sequel business, but before, you know, Aladdin and Lion King were like the two biggest films of those years, or Beauty and the Beast, or Little Mermaid, and yet their sequels were like straight to video cheap things. When you think, well, they could have spent a lot of money and just kind of, unless they kind of want those cinematic films to be quite, you know, prestigious, or, you know, they want that prestige of just being that kind of perfect little film, and they don't want the dirty little, they want the money from the VHS sales of the sequel, but they don't want it to muddy the
brand,
like the theatrical. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, let's move on anyway, and say that this week we're going to be talking about Barbara Loden's Wanda. Play the trailer, boys.
Come home from work, she's lying around on the couch, kids are dirty, there's diapers on the floor. Sometimes the kids is outside, running around, nobody watching them. Wanda Goronsky.
Listen, Judge, if he wants a divorce, just give it to him. You know what happened to me? Somebody stole all my money. And I'm just no good. Just no good.
You can do it.
I can't.
You can do it.
I can't.
You can. You can.
I can't.
Come on.
Sun's going down.
So Wanda. So we've saying that how we're going to cover like quite a bigger films, because there's obviously big gaps in the stuff we've seen that at this time. But then I put Wanda on the list, which is a film I think most people just haven't heard of. Frankly, it barely got a theatrical release in the US, which is part of the whole story, really. But it did win.
Well, it seems like it got remastered like in the last 10 years, and it kind of got put back into film festivals, or
definitely
like out of competition or whatever, but kind of it got reappraised by like, or it got rediscovered, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that. It got kind of 2017, it was put up for the Library of Congress, basically, for being culturally historically important. It got a big re-release and kind of positioning for that. But I thought I was really keen to kind of cover a female director, basically, and especially at this time period, it's difficult because it's Hollywood, you know, and it's difficult now to find women who are allowed to kind of make films, and when you're going back in time, it's much harder. And Barbara Loden's just a really, really interesting character that really should be talked about more in terms of what she did and her position in kind of film history, because when this film came out, she was basically one of the only female directors that ever got a theatrical release film in America, in an absolute handful of people.
It's crazy.
And herself, she was a really, really interesting character. She was who, unfortunately, after this film, never made another film. Despite trying, and she
made several shorts, I think.
She did make a couple of shorts, yeah. She was working on stuff, but she couldn't actually get stuff funded. She couldn't get stuff in. And she ended up getting breast cancer in 1978, so 8 years after this film, and dying in 1980. So unfortunately, like, this really stands alone as her piece of work, really.
She was 48 when she passed away, I think.
Yeah, only 48 years old. Yeah, she was 38 when she made this. Her story really, I think, in a lot of ways is a story of of women working in Hollywood in this time. And I think in a large way her story is one that should be told and talked about more, that kind of is in this picture. So I know it's kind of hard to find this film, but I would really recommend people watching it.
Well, I mean, in America, if there's anybody in America who listens, we know your mom listens, but your mom doesn't live in America. But yeah, it's part of the Criterion collection, so you can definitely get it on Blu-ray or DVD there.
You'll be able to get it on the Criterion.
It might be on the Criterion channel, maybe. I'm not sure
I think they all are. I think.
Yeah.
The history of we'll give a bit of introduction to Barbara Loden as well, who she was an actress, mainly a theatre actress. She won a Tony for her acting.
I did.
She was then she moved into films, but I think the story of her as an actress in Hollywood is a large part the story of them not knowing what to do with someone who they just wanted to treat as a pin-up, and actually she wasn't that. She kind of wanted to take her own path. She wanted to do more, and she was a bit outspoken about that. And I think because of that, she suffered really to try and get a lot of roles. She's only really in 2 films before making this. One film, she shot a 3rd film, which she gets cut out of almost completely, which was, if I remember right, it was. Oh damn! I had it written down, but I can't find it now. It doesn't matter. And The Swimmer, which she got deleted from, which is The Swimmer's got a whole massive history to itself, really. And then she just struggled to find other work. At the time, she was married to a film director, Kazan, who you might know.
Was this the guy that she was originally? He started to write the film, and then she kind of took over.
Yeah, Elia Kazan. Yeah, which in itself, that sounds like it might not be true. In itself, it might sound like him taking credit for stuff that he had nothing to do with, which again, a large part of the female story in Hollywood. I think everything about Barbara Loden in Hollywood kind of sings to the 70s and how women were treated there. She was compared to kind of Marlon Brando as an actress. She had like this element of improvisation with her, a surprise at what she does, that really people said no one else kind of had, apart from kind of like, that Brando technique and stuff. And she was on Safari moaning that she couldn't make a film. A friend of hers, Harry Schuster, offered her $100K to make her own movie. So she wrote a screenplay for Wanda. She couldn't sell it. No one would buy it, so she just chose to shoot it herself and star in it herself. By the way, no one shoot it, not even a husband that's Eli Kazan would shoot it. So she just did it herself. On a budget, I think it was $115K. I think that's all.
Yeah, and they had I think there was 4 of them in the crew.
Yeah.
So there was a DP who was also the editor.
Yeah.
I guess there was a boom operator. Whereas I don't think the boom operator did a very good job, because I could not hear half of the dialogue in this film. Well, that could be my gamma years. But
I didn't have trouble with it, so I don't know if that was just how you.
No, I didn't have trouble. That's not true. That's not fair. It was just, you can tell it was a low budget production.
Yeah, you can but it also adds to it a little bit, I think. Because,
I agree. To be honest,
it's shot on 16mm, which maybe you want to explain what that really means for people who don't know what that means, really.
Okay, I'll try my best to explain it. So you've got different kind of film stocks. So you've kind of got 8mm, which is what your old Super 8 cameras would have been shot on, your home videos, and you've got 16mm, which is higher, and it can be projected, it can be blown up bigger on screen, basically. And then you go up to 32mm, 75, and then you go up to then say IMAX, which I'm not even sure what IMAX is. But anyway, the bigger the film stock, the bigger the mill, the better it looks blown up on screen, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of kind of still to this day, I think Black Swan was shot on 16mm.
Was it?
I believe so.
Cool.
Obviously, now with the way you can post-process films, it can probably look a lot better than it did back then.
Yeah, to me, this very much looks like 16mm blown up.
Yeah, I mean, Clerks was shot on black and white 16mm as well. But yeah, so that's probably where the noise comes from as well. If you watch the film, it's quite noisy.
Yeah,
and that's because the bigger you blow an image up, the more the noise will be apparent.
But I think
But it adds to it. It's all
It
part
does.
of the texture.
It feels a little cinema verite to me.
Yeah.
Which, documentary style, French documentary style about kind of reality shooting, really.
Well, I was going to say
French
it's
New
kind
Wave
of.
stuff, like.
I was going to say a bit French New Wave,
Yeah.
where you've kind of got the new German cinema.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Kind of, or like the Andy Warhol films, so that
Yeah,
kind of like
that's a good
art
one.
kind of films and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But it feels like that, which adds to it. This, to me, really feels like a reality film. I think it helps that a lot of the actors are very amateur, and sometimes some of them weren't actors.
Weren't even actors.
Yeah, so I think a lot of their dialogue just feels like... Well, apparently she shot it like almost improvised. Like the screenplay that she wrote basically acted as a skeleton structure for the kind of scenes, and she allowed people just to get there in their own way of saying stuff. And I think you see that in the scenes of this film. There's stuff like, is it the old guy who wants to go fishing that ends up giving her a bit of money?
I was going to say, I've got it in my notes, the coal picker is my favourite character. Like,
He
she
was
just
amazing.
randomly, like, you've got this whole tracking shot that's, I'd say it's about a minute in length, maybe longer. And it's just tracking her walking through this quarry.
Oh, when she's just that white dress and the quarry's just that black
Yeah, and he's just
behind
tracking.
her.
And then she just walks up to this picker. And, like, I don't know if there's any relation to her and the picker. I don't know if it's even said, but...
No.
She just goes up asking for some money.
Yeah.
He gives her some money. He goes, I haven't got much money, but this is all I can give you. Go ask someone else for some money.
Yeah.
But, like, she goes, I'm going to take it easy for the day, go fishing,
Yeah.
and then go home and enjoy myself for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way he says it sounds like, I think it's Pennsylvania this is set and shot, and so it just sounds regional to me. It sounds like this is how this guy would say this.
I've got the note.
The script
It
might
sounds
say
like
something completely
Ladka from
different, but
Taxi.
this is how this guy says it.
Sorry, no, what did you say? Sorry, say that again.
I said, like, to me, this sounds regional. Like, the script might have said, like, here you go, have some money, and, and later on I'm going to go fishing or something. Like, but the way he says it makes it sound, like, real to me. Like, almost like he read what the script seemed to do and just put it in the way he says stuff. And it just made it feel, like, really stand out to me, actually.
He sounded a bit like Ladka to me from Taxi. Thank you very much. Okay. But I tell you what, I got a vibe from this film, though. I got a bit of the Wim Wenders vibe, who obviously was part of the new German cinema kind of wave.
Cool.
So, like, films like Paris, Texas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd say that film's maybe a bit more focused, but it's still like a road movie kind of.
Yeah.
Got that kind of flowy vibe where they probably have non-actors and stuff like that. But
And you think she's doing this? She's shooting this in '69. This is a '70 film. I think it's
so it's.
I would say she's a pioneer. Basically, she's ahead of her time.
Definitely.
Like, the stuff I saw in this was like, this is Scorsese. This is what Scorsese does later in the '70s. Really, he builds on this kind of this stuff coming through, and but she's doing this then, like much more further before.
So I think you can take this film in two different ways. Like, so for example, there's a lot of long takes that can seem awkward, or badly acted, or badly shot. So you can either take it that it's very amateurish and they're not sure what they're doing, or you can take it on the other hand, where she knows exactly what she wants and this is exactly how she wants it. And
I feel like she knew what she's doing.
And I think it's the latter, but I think you could watch it and think the other.
Maybe, yeah. I didn't think of that, but I think you're right. The way the shots linger on her face, it's a film that really puts you in her position. Like, it's a lot of dialogue is spoken off screen, and you watch her react to it, and you're watching her expression fade almost uncomfortably close to her face, almost like you say, did they know what they were doing? Did they get too close by accident, or did she really want it that close? But it puts you in absolute mindset of her. You feel her. You feel like you understand her expression. By the end of the film, you know what all those micro expressions mean and what she's feeling all the time. And I just was kind of a little bit taken aback by that, actually. And it feels like, I don't know, ahead of its time, frankly, that this was shot so cheap in the 70s, especially 1970 itself. And even to give a little bit more about the film, it's semi-autobiographical, she explains it as. It's a passive kind of this kind of disconnected coal miner's wife who is just out and out. She can't get work. She can't keep anybody. She can't live anywhere. She keeps having no money. Who attaches herself to a petty crook, and they go on a bit of a road trip and have some crime sprees. But it's not glamorized. It's not like crime sprees like a Bonnie and Clyde type of thing. It really demystifies that kind of glam and glitz of cinema, which really was the 60s and before that. This is really just stripped back to a film that's not anything glamorous about it at all, really, actually.
Yeah.
Eventually, it does get a release in America. It gets, but it didn't have a wide release. But it was the only American film at the Venice Film Festival in 1970 where it won the Critics' Prize for Best Foreign Film. And then it got presented at the 1971 Cannes because of that. In 2010, it gets relaunched and kind of put into the Museum of Modern Art and stuff like that. And she started to kind of be seen as this very early kind of feminist filmmaker, really. Even though at the time she didn't describe herself as a feminist, but I think that's because of what feminism was when she made this film compared to what it is now. I'd say now you couldn't describe this as anything else but a feminist movie.
Well, I guess at the time her character is kind of like, she's kind of used quite a lot in it, or like, kind of abused quite a lot. Do you know what I mean?
She's abused
like,
a lot, yeah.
Mr. Dennis just kind of like uses her pretty much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And,
yeah.
She at the beginning, so she meets a guy in a bar after she's told there's no job for her at this kind of like
sewing factory,
textile factory. She goes to a bar to kind of drown her sorrows, I guess.
Yeah.
A guy sees her and says, "I'll buy you a drink." The next thing you know, they're in a motel.
Yeah.
They've had sex. She wakes up. He leaves straight away. So he's going to leave without her.
Yeah. He doesn't want to be anywhere near her at that point. Like, and she knows that if he leaves without her, she's stuck. She's got no money. She doesn't really know where she is, so she has to kind of run after him to jump in this car.
Yeah, and then he leaves her abandoned at this like ice cream stall.
Yeah, a little kiosk, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then she seems to get a free ice cream. Like, considering she's quite poor and she knows how to kind of
survive.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
she's learned how to survive. I think that's why it's a. She said that this film isn't about like women's liberation. This is why she said it's not a feminist film, but it is about oppression of women and what it feels like to be a woman in her position at this time. And like she's learned how to kind of navigate this world by attaching herself to men, because that's the only way for her to kind of get through, and to get money, to get people looked after, even though that it's this horrible cycle basically where they treat her and abuse her, but she keeps kind of just following after that because it's what she knows.
We don't know if her ex-husband treated her badly. We don't know about that.
No, but
because she's got kids that she obviously doesn't. She either thinks they're best not being anywhere near me, or she's not bothered about them. I don't think they're really kind of. And then she carries a picture of them.
I think she carries a picture. I got the impression that she was abused by him, and she thought the best way for them to kind of have a good life is if I'm not in here, because he'll just he'll lash out at them if I'm not there or something. That's like what I got from the kind of the weird divorce arrangement bit, where she kind of just turns up and just tries to kind of get away instantly.
Right. And then who's the next? So then she meets Mr. Dennis in a bar.
So
like she walks into a bar that he goes, this, you think he's a bar owner.
Yeah,
and he's
until
like,
you see the dead barman.
And then, like, I was thinking, he's acting really bizarrely.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of doing these weird flinching movements and stuff. And then you find out there's a dead body in the bar, and he's obviously just robbing the bar, and he's killed the bar owner. And then they have sex in a motel. And then later on,
she latches herself onto him, doesn't she? Like anyone else.
Yeah. And then later on in the film, and I'm jumping ahead, but she's raped. And so yeah, she's men very much take advantage of her in this film.
Yeah, almost continuously. Like, and most
not
of the
the
film,
coal picker though. He's a good dude.
No, the coal picker's a good guy. But like, this film is just in her face, and you get to kind of understand like the way she's managed to navigate life, and the way she managed to shrug things off, and all those little like side glances she gives, and all those kind of little micro expressions and stuff, like tell you about how she's hardened to all this. You know, this is just part of her life. It's a shitty place to be a woman when you haven't got any education and you haven't got a job and you haven't got any money, and men just absolutely treat you like crap. I absolutely hated Mr. Dennis with an absolute passion.
He's a see you next Tuesday.
It. Yeah, absolutely. That he just that constant dismissal of her at every single moment she even says anything out loud. She'll say something completely logical, and he will moan about her hair being a mess and saying you need to get a hat and stuff like that.
I did like that one scene though. I don't know if it was they just happened to be filming a scene and someone was flying the aeroplane around them, so they're like, "Well, we've just got to use it because otherwise we've just got to go with it." And like he's jumping on top of the car, and then after a while he just turns to her and just goes, "You need a hat."
That when they're lying in bed and he's like, "I want 3 hamburgers, nothing on them, and a newspaper." And then and she's like, what? And he's like, "Go and do it, go on." And she's like, "Okay, Christ." And then she kind of doesn't know where she's going, so she asks directions, and because of that she gets hit when she comes back into the room.
Yeah, because obviously he's killed someone, so he's running from the law.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking
to lead back to him, but I'm not saying I agree with his actions.
No. I just he's so egotistical for a guy that I just don't think deserves to have any ego to him. And
he's like a very schlubby looking guy. Like there's nothing amazing
just a
about
slubby
him.
Guy.
He's not very good at doing what he does.
No, he's awful. He basically killed a barman and robbed the bar, and he thinks he's like fucking the most like Al Capone or something. He's seeing if his name's in the newspaper, and every siren must be for him and stuff.
You kind of like in that scene as well in the car when she's reading the newspaper. You get because she's very aimless in this film, isn't she?
She's really depressed as fuck. Is what she is in this film.
But she's also very honest and also very naive, and you can tell she's probably not very well educated because she
she can
read very well.
Yeah.
And you just feel really bad for her.
Yeah, I know.
I just felt sad for her the whole way.
It was such a sad film. It was. It's just ending. I was like, God, that is so depressing.
And it doesn't help that there's no music in the film whatsoever.
I was going to say that. I can literally remember 2 bits where there's music in the film.
Well, there's only music at the end, and I don't know if there's a band basically at the end after she's raped by. Is he a soldier?
He's like a pilot or something, isn't he? Yeah, and he attempts to rape in the car, and she at that point basically is the first time in the film when she really does anything active. It's when she finally just goes, "Nope, fuck it," and fights him off, and she runs off.
Sorry, saying raped is the wrong thing, but sexually harassed or
she's assaulted. Yeah,
she's assaulted.
Yeah, definitely.
But she kind of finds solace at the end in this kind of bar.
Yeah, the cycle continues. Yeah.
No. But just the expression on her face is she's just horrified. And then just this still at the end, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. She's just
there's a band
empty,
playing in there, and that's the only time you really hear music.
The other part where there's music was that fucking insane Christian theme park, whatever the fuck.
Oh, the catacombs,
yeah. And there's organ music, but it's the only time I remember music in that film is the organ music, then the band at the end.
You know how damp smelling that place is. You can just smell it coming off the screen, like how you know if you go to the Jorvik Viking Museum or something like that, kind of horrible smell. But that's like a fake smell. They
put that smell in. Yeah,
this would be like a real.
Yeah, that catacombs, and there's because they go to this little I don't know, Christian theme park, and Mr. Dennis, the criminal, his dad owns it or something. And they show you on a little tour around it, and they've got all these models set up, mannequins set up to be
with tigers and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the Christians being eaten by lions and stuff, and I was just like,
but that existed. That's a real place.
It's a real place they shot at. I didn't write down the name here, but it's just. This is what I think Middle America is. This is what just it's stuff like that everywhere.
I mean, people have done series of just visiting these kind of weird places. I know Kevin Smith did this thing called Roadside Attractions, where he went around. I think it's for Jay Leno's. What was his show? The Tonight Show. I don't know what was his late night show. I don't know.
He used to do the Tonight Show before. Yeah,
that was it. So he did roadside attractions where he'd go to these small towns and just visit all their weird like just places, and that's 100% one of those places. Do you know what I mean? Like a paperclip museum, or those kind of weird. I mean,
World's
this
largest
is like
ball of twine.
or the place from Tiger King. That kind of
Sure,
just
okay,
weird kind of off the beaten track kind of places. But like the actor who played, well, I don't think he's an actor, but the guy who plays Mr. Dennis's dad, like he's not an actor, he's just a guy. They just kind of
like a guy,
say these lines or say something to this effect. It kind of reminded me a bit like a lot of Hermione Corinne's films, especially like his early ones, like Gummo or like Kids and stuff. I know they're probably a bit weirder.
Yeah. This film isn't
they've
weird.
Definitely
it's
got
just
that
really...
kind of. I don't know what the word is, but very free-flowing kind of just point a camera at someone and just go.
Yeah.
See what happens, see what comes out of it.
That structured kind of informality about the scenes and things. And
yeah.
It works really well. And this, because the way they shoot it, that the camera in her face, it puts you in her shoes like so well. Like, and I would be surprised if there's any film at this time period that does that with a female lead character at all. Like this film could have only been directed by a woman in the 1970s. There's absolutely no way anyone else would have shot anything that looks like this or feels like this at all. Even to have the same, even to have the same aesthetics about or same feeling about what it feels like to be this character, this poor lower class woman in America. I don't think anyone was writing films like that or even making films like that. I don't think they even really did after this, and for years. Even now it's hard to make films about women, then it's absolutely amazing, really, and it absolutely works. It absolutely works as a film.
So then so they're like on a road trip for a while, aren't they? And they go to like a not a shopping mall, but a kind of like a like a retail area. And there's a Woolworths there, surprisingly. I haven't seen a Woolworths in a long time. I don't know if it's the same brand of Woolworths that
I have
we have.
no idea, actually.
But so she goes to buy some clothes.
Yeah.
He steals some.
He's breaking into cars. He yells at her about her clothes. He yells at her for having pants rather than a
lipstick
dress.
as well, and like throwing them out. He's cascading the trousers and the lipstick on in the road and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, chucking out the lipstick and saying none of this crap when you're with me. It felt so annoyingly real and horrible, and I just felt so sorry for her.
When she's sitting next to him and he gets her to come close to him and he starts touching her up, and you're like, oh man.
I didn't like it at all. But it feels like, she's such a depressed person. She has such low self-esteem, but every man she meets basically adds to it. Every man she meets basically contributes to her low self-esteem. They confirm it for her, They tell her she's stupid. Tell her that she's ugly. Tell her that she's wearing the wrong clothes. Hits her. Just uses her and tries to abandon her in a motel room. That's just constantly just confirming to her how useless she is, and I just was I feel so bad for this character. It's so bad, and
not the coal picker,
the coal picker. And then she should have just hung out with the coal picker all the time and gone fishing. But even her sister's brother-in-law is the first shot of the film is her waking up on the sofa, and her brother-in-law's mad at her because she's there. And just leave her alone. Let her sleep on the sofa. At least let her have that.
I love how the first 20 minutes of the film she's just in a curlers.
Yeah.
So when she's trying to get the money off the guy at the coal picker, and then she goes to the
she gets robbed at the cinema, doesn't she?
Yeah, she doesn't have the curls in then though, does she?
Doesn't she?
This is what I found funny though. After she has sex with that guy from the bar, and she has the curlers in, she has no curls. Anyway.
Yeah, because she buys some curlers later and he chucks them out of the car, doesn't she? No curlers. None of that crap. I hated Mr. Dennis so much.
Yeah. So...
Mr. Dennis in this film, Higgins, the actor, when played him, was 50 years old when he played this character. Barbara Loden was 38 when she made this. So that's a sizable age gap, 12 years. It felt older to me on screen, though. She felt younger, he felt older to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't know if that was just the actors, but I think it is interesting to point out, and this might be conspiracy theories. This film, she does describe as semi-autobiographical. She grew up in, I think, South Carolina, I think. No,
Yeah, because I think he was meant to be shot in the South originally.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
They,
she grew up
they
in North
couldn't
Carolina,
afford it, so they went.
but they couldn't. They
over
shot it
north.
in Pennsylvania instead. But it's it's this like she, the coal mining and areas and stuff. Her husband at this time was Eli Kazan.
20 years older than her, or something.
23
like
years
that.
older than her. Yeah, who at this time they were estranged. Basically, they were going through troubles at this time. By the time she died, they were estranged. They weren't divorced, but they were no longer a couple. This was her second husband as well. And I just wondered if when she says it's semi-autobiographical, I was just like, is this guy being Kazan in this film? Like, and so I did look it up, and
they say you are your art, and
exactly.
It kind of bleeds out. It kind of bleeds.
I was like,
into what
are they making Higgins a bit older to play more that age gap up, like she might have wanted? Like,
it's like we were talking about the Matrix. Look how
without
them knowing, they were writing
those elements
into that, and probably the same with this.
But so I looked it up, and Kazan was actually quite a piece of shit when he talked about her. I probably shouldn't say that so strongly, but he was quite in his autobiography. He kind of said that he desired to control her and had an inability to control her, and I was like, well, that's because it's quite clear that Barbara Loden was not that type of character. Like, and she was like, he had this. She wrote about Loden. He goes, with a mix of affection and patronization, emphasizing her sexuality and her backcountry feistiness. And it's such a condescending way to talk about someone. Just kind of saying that she depended on her sex appeal to get ahead, and nothing else. And I'm like, that's you're seeing her the same way like the Hollywood producers saw her that wouldn't let her make films.
To be
or
fair
do
though,
films
mate,
the same way,
he is one of those guys.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's who he is.
So I did feel like, I wonder if there was certain elements of her relationship with him was actually feeding into this film. That might be complete blasphemous and liable. I don't want to be like liable to that, but I just had that bit of feeling towards it.
What was I going to say? So yeah, they kind of pick out a bank that they're going to rob, don't they?
Yeah.
And they find out who the bank manager is.
Yeah.
And they kind of, well, first of all, he tells her what they're going to do, and she's like, I don't want any part of it, and she's throwing up and stuff like that. And then he's like,
so nervous she's throwing up.
Yeah. And they go to the house. They have this fake bomb made.
That bomb is the most hilarious thing.
I mean, it looks fake. It's like a battery connected to a block of plasticine or something.
Yeah, there's like 3 tubes that are meant to be dynamite with some wires coming out of them, attached to like a 9-volt battery, and attached to like a kind of clock that you'd have on the side of the bed or something. And it's all in a little kind of rucksack, a little kind of handbag thing. And
then they leave it on the lap of the wife and his daughters.
Yeah.
And they say it's going to go off in like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then they take the bank manager so Mr. Dennis takes the bank manager with him in a car, and then Wanda follows them in her car. I tell you what I like though in this whole scene when they're following, just all the different kinds of cars. So you've got 50s, 60s, and then the kind of, so you've got all the Cadillacs, and then you've kind of got into the more kind of, what do you call them? Those kind of like boxy kind of, like the car from Vacation.
Sure, like the saloon cars, like the family saloon things.
Yeah, and it kind of goes into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like thinking, those cars were disgusting. Cadillacs are awesome,
But it's true. If someone now said we're going to make a film set in 1970, every car would be a 1970s film. Sorry. And
that's the key. You've got to have like, it's a percentage. You've got to have like say 20% new. And then the rest are from other decades, because like my car is like about, I don't know, at this point 12 years old.
Sure, cars, yeah. Not everything just changes when it hits 1970 to be from 1970.
Yeah.
Like,
I just like the texture of this film. That's what I like. I liked a lot of the scenery as they're driving around this scene, and like the locations and stuff like that. It put in a real sense of time and space, and I thought it was really well done. And I just like the shooting style. It kind of has that kind of gonzo kind of.
But it's
free-wielding.
Even though it's 16mm, it captures a certain kind of like beauty to it all as well. It captures the kind of sunlight in all the kind of landscapes
yeah.
and things, and it captures the change of colours. In fact, I think the only time she really smiles in this film is actually right in the middle when she's just staring out the window when they're driving.
Yeah, she's just
around.
driving, following them,
Because she's not living in a coal mine anymore. But this is the worst plan anyone's ever had
It's so
to rob a
bad.
bank. I was so it's Mr. Dennis is a prick. I'm glad he's a prick. So she has to follow him to the bank. And she gets caught in traffic and then gets lost. She decides to try and do a U-turn at a cross section, and the traffic cop's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" and pulls her over. And
asks for her ID and stuff, but it's got stolen earlier on.
She doesn't have any idea or anything. So she's stuck talking to this cop. Meanwhile, Mr. Dennis just decides to go ahead and rob the bank on his own without her there, which involves him basically walking into the bank early and asking them to open the vault up, which triggers the alarm saying, well, it's not meant to be open yet.
I love the look of that vault, though. It looks awesome. I love those. It's like when we watched Quick Change as well the other day, just those kind of old-fashioned, like the fact that the vault is so visible to the public. It's just...
that's true.
It's just there in front of, the cashier desk.
What do you think bank vaults look like nowadays? Do you think they still
do they even exist, really? Like, they're probably...
There must be some sort of vault, but I can't imagine it's a big wheel like that, a big round wheel thing. It can't be, can it? If anyone works in a bank, tell me what the bank vault's like.
Well, I was trying to think. I watched The Town a few weeks ago, and I think that had a sizable vault in it. But again, that's 10-year-old film now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And that's America. I don't know. Anyway.
I like to think it's just a big round door with a big wheel.
But when he comes out of the vault, there's just police waiting for him
everywhere. And she's not even there yet as well. So he would have still been waiting around even if the police hadn't got there. I love the fact that she obviously had trouble parking, because when the police storm the bank and shoot him dead basically, but it cuts to outside and she's running down the street trying to get there, and it's like, I love the fact that she just parked up the street like they were just going to walk, over the road to where she'd parked or something. And then that's that wonderful shot where you see her reacting to everything that's going on. Just, a single shot on her face.
When she's been held back by the police, you mean? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And you see, everything in that kind of expression of her. You see that there's panic, sadness, that look that she's taking on failure. Like, she knows she's failed on this and she's taken that hard. Like, she's taken on herself. There's a look of release to her because she knows this is over, but it's sadness because this was going to be a release from her life, an escape from her life. Even if it was with this horrible man, it was still going to be something else to do. She would have some money and escape something.
Well, I guess it's a bit of excitement as well. I guess I
guess you could get everything in that way. She kind of does that shot and the way she reacts.
Well, it's like when they storm into the house of the bank manager. Because basically the bank manager overpowers Mr. Dennis.
Yeah.
And she saves him pretty much, doesn't she? She kind of...
that little struggle. Yeah.
Then she's got the gun and kind of...
She aims the gun on him, yeah.
To be honest, though, the bank manager... when they're driving in the car, though, with the bank manager and Mr. Dennis, the bank manager's just... you'd think you'd be a bit more... what the fuck are you doing? Kind of attitude, but he seems very blasé or casual about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he was never going to get anything from the bank, and I hope he would notice that isn't a real bomb that he left his wife and kids with. I don't know. Maybe it could fool you, but
just such a terrible plan.
It's awful. It's the worst.
But anyway,
film
she goes to a diner afterwards, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, that's where she gets the M and gets her drunk. Then,
yeah. And they listen. She's watching the news, and it's basically showing the dead body of Mr. Dennis on the floor, telling that the bomb wasn't a real bomb.
Yeah, and they don't suspect her. She's got no role in this. She's not linked.
There was an alternative ending where the police find her there and take her.
Oh right, okay.
But she thought that it was unreal. Well, she thought it was a bit unrealistic or cliche, so they changed it to the ending that we now see, where she comes out of the woods.
This ending is devastating. This ending destroyed me. Like it's such a good ending for this film because it's not about the bank robbery. It's not about her crimes. It's just about the cycle of the life she lives in, and all this film ends with basically is her finding this bar, ending up surrounded by men buying her drinks again. Loads of people are laughing and having fun, and she just looks mortified.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're giving her cigarettes and trying to play with her, and she's just absolutely out of body experience. And it just kind of just focuses on her as she sits there, kind of knowing that, well, she tried to break this cycle, but she hasn't. She's just right back here, and it's going to keep going. And it's just, it just felt haunting to me. Like, it just felt so amazing, like, just so terrible. Yeah, just so terrible.
But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic. I thought it was a really good film. I don't know if I'll jump to watch it again anytime soon because it literally bummed me out to watch it. But I thought it was.
I think it's so.
I thought it was.
It, as a first film that someone wrote, directed, acted in, it shows so much promise.
It's very confident, isn't it? It's very.
It is very in its language and its shot.
But it's
so
like
confident.
I said earlier. It's very amateurish, but it's not. It's so amateurish that it's confident in.
She had a vision, definitely. She knew what she was doing, and she had a confidence in the way that she was going to show that on screen. She knew her story. This was, she was showing what she knew about herself as a woman and showing that on screen, which I would say is incredibly unique in this time period. And
I thought she was great in the scene when they're in the motel. Which, first of all, that bed they have sex in looks so uncomfortable.
The beds in this film made me sad.
Yes,
it made me so sad. The pillows look so flat, and there was never sheets on the fucking mattress. They were all lying on and I just hated. It felt so uncomfortable and itchy.
Well, I think that's probably intentional. I
hope so. I don't think it's accidental, unless it's just what the 70s was like. I don't know.
But when he gets to get the McDonald's and he's like, no onions, I don't want any of that muck or whatever he calls it.
I love when she's like, I like onions. Like,
that's what I'm saying. He comes back and he slaps her and he's like, you piece of shit.
That slap.
And then she literally, instead of just getting rid of the onions, she just takes everything off and just hands him a piece of bread with just some meat in between. But yeah, like you said, that shot where she's just sitting on the radiator and she says, well, I like onions.
Yeah, well, I like onions. I know what you don't like about onions. Like, and there's so many scenes when she's talking, like she's trying to connect to him and he's just a fucking gravestone of a human.
It's like when she's eating the spaghetti and she's
yeah. I love that scene
she's asking if he wants that last bit of bread. And she's like...
She's like, that's my favourite part. That's the best part. Yeah, that was so good. And it felt so natural. I doubt it was written. That felt like her just playing that scene up and him having nothing to contribute, basically.
Yeah, and he's saying, wipe your mouth, you got it all around your face. She had not one speck of bolognese.
Absolute that is domestic abuse. That's horrible. Yeah. I hated it. I can't believe, and the thing is, what we keep saying, I cannot believe she didn't instantly get funding to make another film after this. I can't believe that she it took her 8 years to start working on
I can
another
kind of
film.
Understand, knowing what the Hollywood system was like back then. I can understand why they did. I mean,
it's just not fair.
Unjustly, she didn't get it. She should have, And she should have been up there with the Wim Wenders and all those kind of filmmakers of that era.
Absolutely. And spoilers, a film director we'll cover later on as well, Elaine May, who's a prominent 70s female film director. She should have been in that kind of sphere and talked about in that way. Like, it should be. She seemed to have that talent to me. Unfortunately, obviously, she got sick as well. But she had 8 years between this film and when she got sick to make something, and it's just baffling to me that she couldn't get that done. It's not her fault. Absolutely not her fault.
Yeah.
But she was working. I thought it was interesting. When she got sick, she was working on an adaptation of the Kate Copland novel, The Awakening, which is it's a American novel. It's widely seen as a landmark of early feminism in American literature. So she clearly was quite passionate about this and quite passionate about bringing it forward. And I would have loved to see what she would have done with that. I would have absolutely loved it.
Yeah. It's just a shame we were robbed of more films from her, I think.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I watched this.
Same. I thought it was really good.
I felt like I actually learnt something, and I've learnt about a person I didn't really know anything about as well.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'd never heard of her until you,
No.
you know, you put it on the list, and so I did a little bit of research about her.
But
yeah,
what she, in her own words, what she did say as well, she goes, when I made Wanda, I didn't really know anything about consciousness raising or women's liberation. That had just started when this film was finished. The picture was not about women's liberation. It was really about the oppression of people. Sorry, oppression of women, of people. Being a woman in unexplored territory. And we're pioneers of a sort, discovering what it means to be a woman. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's feminism. That's feminism filmmaking. And she did this in 1970. And people are still trying to do this like decades later.
it should 100%. Like, when I was at film school. Well, I mean, I did animation, but you still have a lot of the same lessons that you would have in a normal film school because you are a filmmaker. You're not animator is a skill, but it's also you are making films. So, but they didn't really teach anything hardly anything about female filmmakers or animators, and I think that's something that needs to change, or hopefully is changing. Brandon, who's going to be on this show soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
He's a film tutor, and so I introduced him to this film.
Oh, cool.
And I think he's gonna, he's saying people should make more of a point of her, and I think he's gonna probably take it forward and kind of talk about it a bit more in his lectures and stuff like that. So
that'd be great, because it's such especially at film school level, where this is I don't want to sound disparaging, this is a film school level film, really.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not expensive. It's one camera, one setup, and stuff and you could make. You could
probably tell they probably only had one take, and it's what they got is what they got.
What they
Do
got,
you know what I mean?
And a lot of it was probably the way we made films. We walked into establishments and gone, "Can we use that booth over there for 2 hours, please?"
Yeah. $100,000 is a lot of money to some people, but for film, it's nothing.
It's nothing.
Film
Once
stock
comes together,
costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you probably have enough to make a 2-hour film. You probably have enough for 1 or 2 takes at most, because then you've got, not only do you have to buy the film, you have to then have it developed, so that you can actually start editing it. And apparently they edited it at her home, apparently.
Oh, right. Wow. And I think I got another quote about this, what I really liked as well. This is not about her. This is about her, not from her. But she was a person ahead of her time, in a way that her troubles in Hollywood seemed to mainly be about the fact that men kept trying to control her, and she simply had an opinion, and men didn't like that at the time. She kind of, with this film, she challenges industry stereotypes. I think even her husband assumes that she's just another beautiful blonde Hollywood, rather than this film shows she actually was this kind of restless, pioneering film artist, and and we should celebrate her. Basically, is what I'm trying to say, and more people should see this and talk about her. Really.
There you go. This is from Wikipedia. Loden said the film was semi-autobiographical and that she was inspired to write it after reading a newspaper report that a woman had thanked a judge after he sentenced her to 20 years in prison for participating in a bank robbery. Her husband, Elia Kazan, claimed to have written the initial script, and then Loden rewrote it many times and it became hers. According to Loden, the character of Wanda was created out of herself. In a 1971 interview, she said, "It was sort of based on my own personality, a sort of passive wandering around, passing from one person to another, no direction. I spent many of my years of my life that way, and I felt that, I think that a lot of people are that way, not just women, but men too, that they don't know they exist." In crafting the relationship between Wanda and Norman, Loden avoided integrating any legitimate romance between the characters she felt was unrealistic. Wanda's complete submissiveness, I can't pronounce that, to Norman was also partly inspired by a non-fiction book Loden had read about the upbringing of several prostitutes, one of whom recounted finding joy in the foster mother's severe outbearingness, as she was the first person to have ever told her what to do. She appreciated it, even though the woman was mean. So I guess, some people just want to be told what to do, because they don't. If you're that, you don't know what you're doing. If someone's telling you do this, do that, no matter how they treat you, you kind of will do it. I guess.
Amazing. learnt about a new person, and I have a massive amount of respect for her. And I think
Yeah,
I'm going to be one
massively.
of these. I'm going to keep talking to her at people who don't care about me. Like, listen to me talk about Barbara Loden. Like, and you should watch this film.
It's crazy, you know. She won the Venice Film Festival. Is that the same festival that Joker won?
Yeah, I guess so. Different. Well, that won like the fucking Golden Lion, didn't it? But like, she won Best Foreign at the Venice Film Festival. The only American film to be picked for it. It's just that's on her debut film when she was 38. It's immense. Like,
Yeah, well done. What would you give it? Oh, did you not think at some point she reminded me of Kirsten Dunst in like Magnolia and stuff like that? I don't know why.
I can see that. I kept on trying to think who she reminded me of. Actually, there was something, but maybe it was that. I'd like to see her. Like, she was in Splendor in the Grass and Wild River in the 60s, and I'd like to try and see her as an actress in those more kind of glamoury kind of 60s films rather than this kind of more dirty 70s Hollywood.
Right.
Just because I'm interested more than anything else. Like, but
Yeah.
ratings, I don't know, 4.55. It's right up there. Like,
Yeah, I'd give it a 4.5, I think. But again, I'm not going to jump to watch it again.
Yeah, I think that's that's why it's 4.5 for me, because I'm not going to put it on again, like in any time soon.
But no, I thought it was great,
But
yeah,
quite a start to our series, really. I think. Right.
yeah, good start.
And yeah, as I say, this would be the most obscure film we cover this series, but it's absolutely worth watching. Please, if you can seek it out. Like,
Yeah, it's not easily available to download off torrent sites, not at all.
no.
If you know how. Okay, so what are we going to do next week then, Liam?
I don't know. Ah, yes, I do know. We are going to be looking at the psychological thriller by Sam Peckinpah, Straw Dogs, starring
Awesome.
Dustin Hoffman. A film that I know very little about apart from the poster and its reputation. But
it got remade, didn't it, fairly recently?
Didn't it?
Was Sam Rockwell in it? No, am I making that up?
James Marsden's in it.
James Marsden, sorry. That's it.
In 2011. I never watched that remake. I didn't even go near it. I think it was quite a controversial film at the time, if I remember. That's
definitely. Yeah.
That's what I know about it, that it was quite controversial. So, and we'll see. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is definitely a film that has been copied a lot as well. Like a lot of home invasion films always reference Straw Dogs, don't they? As like a.
Well, I didn't know it was a home invasion film until you just said so.
I'm pretty sure it is. I might look like a right idiot next week then if it's not. I'm pretty sure it is.
It's a road movie.
So thanks for anyone who's tuned in.
That works.
Does it? Do you have to turn it on your dial on your AM FM radio?
Yeah, we're on I don't know, 54.69.
69. Anyway, thanks for listening. Don't forget, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube. You can reach out to us on Twitter. We are Adjust Your Track, and that's Adjust Your with the YR, not a your. We're also on Instagram. You just look for @BetterFeelingFilms, and you'll find my film exploits and stuff about this podcast on there as well. And remember, if the picture's bad, don't forget to adjust your tracking.